we want to apologize for some technical difficulties that we were having. Again, welcome to the Fort Bend Voter News Meet the Candidate. My name is Denise Joshua Fleming. I'm on the Fort Bend News editorial board. Today, I want to introduce you to a new candidate, and well, not a new candidate. He's a reelected judge. Tell us about yourself and why are you running for reelection?
All right, well, first, let me say thanks to the Fort Bend Election News editorial board and to all of you who are putting this on. So it's always an honor to get in front of voters and get an opportunity to explain who you are and talk about some of the issues that are important to this court. So I'm Judge Mark Gibson. I was appointed by Commissioner Grady Prestige and approved unanimously by the Commissioner's Court, and I was appointed in May of 2021, and I was sworn in on July 1st, 2021. So I replaced Judge Clouser, who retired after 28 and a half years on the bench, and so I'm succeeding his legacy, and so I'm asking for the support of the people of Precinct 2 to remain as your Justice of Peace here in the upcoming March 1st election.
Wonderful. So for some of our viewers or newer viewers, explain exactly what a Justice of the Peace does.
Great question. So the JP Court is the home to the entry-level offenses. And so typically, so Class C misdemeanors. The one thing I think the most notable thing about the JP Court is a court you can come as you are. It's not a court you really need to come with a fancy attorney. You need to be all dressed up. You can just come as you are, and so it allows the opportunity for judicial fairness. And one of the big things that we try to apply in the court, and it's a people's court, and so that means that opportunity is there. I think probably the biggest challenge that most people have is that when they don't show up. And so then this JP court becomes significant because it can be a court that can enter a conviction on your record. It is a court that can enter damages, summary judgment, or a default judgment. So while it's the entry court to these entry-level offenses, right, it's a court that I would say most citizens really need to take heart, pay attention to. One of the things that I'll talk about here briefly is one of the things that I have seen as obviously a concern that definitely want, and one of the things I'm doing is ensure that the people of Precinct 2 understand this court process and do not allow the court to get the best of this when they do not pay attention to the court process.
Wonderful. So we've
been a lot about court dockets being backed up. What are some of your suggestions to getting this process moving again, and what would you implement to make this process move along due to the backlog of COVID?
Good question.
Let me just say what we've already done. When I took up the court, clearly
that became
challenged, and it created a major backlog in the court. But by the time I was sworn in, so we implemented some protocols. The Texas Supreme Court had already issued an order providing some flexibility to judges if they want to have in-person hearings or to remain virtual. So during this pandemic, we just established some clear protocols, safety protocols in the court, and allow you to come and be heard, but you had to wear a mask, and if you were not vaccinated, and if you were, then you had the opportunity to remove the mask. That helped to make the court more efficient and allow these cases to be heard. Judicial efficiency is one of the things that I'm big on, and that is ensuring people get a chance to be heard, as opposed to create a major backlog. Now again, health and safety comes first. The challenge we run into with the virtual hearings is that, especially in the JP court, is that significantly you can find yourself with a serious backlog because, setting a virtual hearing for every hour or every 30 minutes, and when you have hundreds of cases, that could create a real challenge. And so we've been very fortunate to implement some efficiencies in the court. One of those is e-filing and trying to get the court back into the 21st century where most things are, or if we can do things electronically, and a lot of attorneys who file matters, they file them by e-filing, and so we're getting there. But I would say we definitely have made a major difference in speeding up the process and removing a lot of cases that have been backlogged.
Thank you.
Yes. How are you, Judge? My question to you is, what are the biggest changes you think we need to make to our justice system?
So in the JP court is a good question, Daphne, and I think it's a point of clarity, right? So the JP court is a court that really you have opportunity to be heard. So the fees are small. If you have a small matter and someone did not properly repair the roof, then you can come to JP court and file a small claim. As I mentioned earlier, is a court you can come as you are. So when we talk about justice, that's the reason why it's a court from the Justice Center. It represents the Justice Center because it is a court we really have justice. But here's where the rubber meets the road, right? A lot of people don't understand the process, and unfortunately, they allow a simple process, opportunity, a court of opportunity, a court of judicial fairness. They allow it to get the best of them because they do not pay attention to this process. And hopefully I get a chance to just leave a case study that's dear to me, but it explains the gravity of the situation when people don't pay attention to this court process.
So
My next question would be, to your point, how does one educate themselves on that process? What would be the best outlet for them to find out this information, obtain it, and then utilize it in your court?
Question, Denise, and we're trying to do that now. I mean, I think we do. I mean, one of the big push from the Justice Center is that when you come to the court, there's a self-help guide for you, and allows you to almost manage your case, adjudicate your case. You don't probably need an attorney, if you just follow the process. But I think it starts with the judge. It starts with me, and I'm doing that now. And one of the things that I've been doing, and I'll start with our young people. One of the major pieces of my platform has been youth mentoring. And that is getting in front of our young people, and I'll start there. And the reason why I start there is because when I took over the court, the first day I had to sign off on a conviction. Initially I didn't want to, but the law was in place. And this young man didn't understand this court process. And I've used this as a rally cry to all these parents out there to stress to the young people that this court process is nothing complicated to follow. No different than if you were riding in a small town and got stopped and pulled over and got a citation. It's clear on the ticket that what they want you to do. So, one of the first things that I've been doing, and I've been getting in front of these young people. I've gone in my robe and have also been to Missouri City Middle School, Willow Ridge High School, been to Marshall High School, and the goal is I bring the DA with me, the district attorney, and so we take the stage, and he sits right across from me, and we admonish these students to pay attention. And I stress to the administrators, it's not career day. I'm not coming to talk about, what life is as a judge, how much money you make. Most young people won't know about judge life. But I come to leave a stern warning that you take this process serious. That if you do not, it can come back to haunt you and haunt you for years. And the reason why I'm bringing this young man's case, because he didn't understand the court process. Simply was driving in an area called Siena, most of you probably familiar with Siena. He got pulled over, and the insurance was not up to date. And so when he got stopped, he got a ticket for failure to show financial responsibility. Unfortunately for him, he didn't follow the court process. He missed the first date. I mean, he's in school. He's a high schooler at one of our well-known high schools. And then he missed the second one. So you get 3 strikes. You get 2 opportunities. The first one is you miss the citation date. The second, you get a failure to appear citation when you do not. We give 3 more days. And when you miss the second one, then we issue an order for your arrest. And in that case, then it's going to become a conviction. And so when he didn't, he was frantic about it, and so he comes in, and so he didn't know what to do, and so he paid the fine. And so once you pay the fine, you admit to the guilt, and it becomes a conviction on your record. The reason why I use him, because you see, what most people understand, especially with Class C citation and misdemeanors, is that a citation, it crosses any boundary, any income level. You can be from River Oaks and get a citation. Or you can be from, the poorest area in town. The point I'm making is that it doesn't. And the reason why I bring it up, because this particular young man, potentially he could graduate top in his class. And he's going to graduate this year. And if he does, he'll have the opportunity to get into the UTs of the world, or even Ivy League schools. But what's going to happen is that at the last moment, these admission counsel, because it's not very expensive to do a background check, and if they do, this conviction is going to pop up on this record. And so what's going to happen is that this young man who may have the golden opportunity to punch his ticket, especially with UT credentials, they will move his folder to the side and look at the next student, because they have thousands of people applying. And that's the reason why I use this example, because I want to get that attention to these young people, but also to these parents, that they can stress. So as part of this youth mentoring and youth, to get in front of young people, let them know about this court process. It's not the end of the world. You just got to follow it. The second thing, while we're talking about education, is the community education, the second area. It's for the rest of the folks in Precinct 2. They're not paying attention to these debt claims. They're by the hundreds. They think these credit card debts will go away, and they don't. And so what happens is that they get sold, and they get sold over and over. And once they just need a judgment. And once they get a judgment, all bad things can happen to folks. And they don't understand that. And they can revive these judgments for every 10 years, the statute of limitation. They can come on the last day before the expiration based on the statute and file any motion, and they can get another 10 years. And so one of the things that we've been doing, what I've been doing as judge, is getting these cases heard and getting them resolved. Stressing to the other side to come in and at least present your case and work out a settlement plan or some type of plan, so these don't show up on your record. Because again, we don't pay attention, and if you get a default judgment, that judgment based on an abstract can become on your record. And suddenly when people now try to get a house or try to move forward in their life, then suddenly these will pop up. And then the last aspect of this court is called judicial affairs, as I mentioned earlier. And the reason why I stress this on both sides is that as a court where you get a chance to be heard, at least show up to be heard.
Wonderful, thank you. I was about to ask you what your top priorities were if you were reelected, but clearly it's about educating themselves.
What would your closing statements be to the voters?
Well, I think there's a clear distinction between me and my opponent. And one, I was appointed to this bench, and I come as qualified, experienced, and definitely engaged. And I think when you do a comparison, side-by-side comparison, there's a clear delineation, distinguishment between me and my opponent. And that's the part I want to stress to the voters. But I think more importantly, I am comfortable when I know that the people of Precinct 2 have felt comfortable with me being their judge, and my opponent is one person who jumped in the race. And so, because this was a golden opportunity. I mean, Judge Clausen, who served with distinction for 28.5 years, a ton of people definitely probably had an interest in jumping the race, but they thought that the court was fine, in good hands with me as their judge, and I'm comfortable with that, and I appreciate that. And so my closing remarks is really to the people of Precinct 2, that I'm honored to serve. I've been honored to serve in these past. It's one of the best jobs I've ever had. I'll always look forward to serving people when I come. I gave up a lot to take this because it's part of giving back, and I've been honored to serve. And I'm a 30-year Army veteran. And part of that was giving back when I ran for Congress, and I was a nominee in 2016. So this job, my request to the voters is simply give me a chance to continue to be a judge, and I appreciate your vote and support, and thanks to the folks in Precinct 2. May God bless all of it.
Due to the technical difficulties we had at the top of all of this, remind us of your name again.
Judge Mark Gibson,
Thank you, Mark.
number 2 on the ballot.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.